welcome my fellow legionaries to yet another episode of How to Draw a City. Today we will be taking a deep dive at the humble warehouse. Now, one thing I'm going to say here is that as we're drawing the city, you need your particular districts to stand out visually. You want them to be able to visually tell their respective stories. There is a big difference between a noble area, a rich area, the poor and the slums, the working district, maybe an industrial zone, and your loading, unloading docks, and your supporting workshops. And there are ways to actually draw your buildings in such a manner where someone looking at your map with no labels at all, labels cover up your wonderful artwork, but with no labels at all, someone should be able to visually look at it and go, yep, I can see that that is a dock area. Now, so we're going to be taking a deep dive look at our warehouses today. Before I get too deep into this, one thing I want to point out, by the way, that there is a companion to this. It is a written companion on Patreon.com. If you would like to know more, if you would like a written version of this, I humbly ask you to take a look at patreon.com/Alyssa Faden. You would honor me just by taking a peek over there. And if you like what you see, maybe hit me up with a follow. The written guide is not blow by blow the same content as what we are talking about today or in previous videos. It follows the same timeline, but with slightly nuanced conversation, maybe slightly different aspects and drawn examples. So together they form a very powerful set. With that said, let's take a look at our warehouses. In the previous video, we drew this warehouse here. Ignore the greys and the pinks in the background. Those are our pencil guidelines. We'll erase them as we go. This particular warehouse captures quite a few aspects of what a warehouse might look like. It implies a warehouse shape and components. We have in the background of it a almost yard area. We have loading, or I should say materials that maybe are getting loaded or unloaded. We have a shape and details to the roof, which implies sub-roofs, or maybe even glass roofs. We have stairs going up the sides, and we have this large area in the front for loading and unloading and storing and transferring of materials. We also have a crane on the wharf, but that is completely independent of the building itself. But as a collective, it starts to imply, okay, this is kind of a warehouse. This is what I'm dealing with here. Now, that said, let's take a look at some other variations and some other considerations. And I'm going to use some real-life examples. And, by the way, it's okay to use real-life examples to get inspiration from. I'm going to zoom out, and we're going to take a look at this. Now, this is on the Thames of London. And now, while this has been renovated and this is now apartments, which would be kind of cool to live here and probably thousands of pounds a month, I want you to look at how this particular old warehouse is sitting right on the Thames. There's no road inset. This is on the Thames. And then this building actually juts into the Thames. And you could see where there was some mooring posts and everything here. There might have even been some wooden decking here. But this, I love doing this type of thing where our building is right on the edge. We've got this man-made water's edge. We've got a building coming into the water itself. We're going to explore that a little later in this episode. Now, here, I want to point out this warehouse here, Phoenix Wharf, and St. John's Wharf here, how not only are these sitting, you can see the man-made structures right where the water comes up, but also notice the sub-roofs. With large structures such as a big warehouse, it isn't going to be necessarily one big, huge, mega roof. All of that needs support. It could be smaller roofs next to each other. As you can see here, it's almost like, and it's not, but it's almost like we've got warehouse 1, warehouse 2, and they're joined at the hip, right? But this here is one way of you invoking that big warehouse feel. We're going to explore that as well. You can see Phoenix Wharf does the same here. Now, this is a little bit like the first picture we took a look at. Water right up to the edge. This building looks set back a little bit, but not this one. This one is actually into the water a little bit. Again, this is a great way to invoke a working building on the water's edge. We're going to do that. Just a couple of others. This one here just shows us in spades just how close these warehouses can be next to the water. Now, this is obviously the wrong era. That the height of London is going to be in our 1700s or 1800s. We may be doing a fantasy map that needs to be more 600 years even prior to that. But the principles remain the same. And if you do a big warehouse like this with sub-roofs up against the water or into the water, it is, regardless of the era, going to start saying to the mind's eye, warehouse. And that's what we want. Lastly, this here, I love this concept, by the way. These walkways in between these working buildings. We're going to do some of this. I actually do this on some of my sub-districts as well. It's a great way of adding variance to your buildings as you're drawing their shapes. But look at this. These working connections as our warehouse workers are coming and going. I absolutely love that. We're going to do a lot of that as well. Alright, so with those said, feel free to look at other examples, and if you've actually seen some great examples, post them in the links below. I would love to see them. If you've got some hints and tips of your own of the types of things that can invoke warehouse, let me know in the comments. So, let's rotate this and let's explore different things that we can do. So we're going to go to our building layer, and I'm going to draw this. I think we were on about 7 pixels or so. Yeah, that feels about right. So let's do the building hanging into the water a little bit. One thing you'll notice, by the way, as I was drawing the wharf edge, notice how I went from a rough natural coastline into man-made water edge. That is everything from the photos that we just referenced, right? So here, this area here, I think we're going to make it different than this one here by actually having our building come in a lot closer to the water. And this road here, we're going to use as the building edge. So let's actually start drawing right there. Let's maybe build or bring our building in, and we'll make the shape interesting. We'll kind of stop it there like so, and we'll come down. I'm trying to, by the way, I am thinking interesting all of the time, an interesting shape. You don't have to overdo it, but this looks more interesting than just a square block, right? So if we do something like that, that has defined our road edge. It's maybe going to be our access road to this entire wharf area. And I always add some roof details to our warehouses. So we're going to do something like this. And I'm probably going to leave the building shape just like that. But this here, this is our main entrance to this warehouse. So I'm going to gate it off with something like this. I'm going to have the gates open, because then you can see that they're actually gates. And we could do some details, but I'm going to come back to the details. Let's just stick with building shapes. This is our building coming into the water, and obviously on the water's edge. Let's fill in the gap here. Let's do something else from the examples we've seen. I'm going to leave an access road, and we're going to do maybe a long building, and we're going to bring it back up to this road here. So something like this. Now, what did we learn from those photos that we just took a look at? How can we make this simple square shape more interesting and scream warehouse? Simple. Let's do the subroofs. And you know what we're going to do along the side? we're going to do a little flat access bit right here. And maybe even some stairs coming up. And here. In fact, you know what? I'm actually going to move that a little like this. Because from, I think it was it this photo? No, not that one. This photo. You notice that there's a flat area? There's a flat area on the sides and a flat area in between. I actually kind of like that. That's what we're capturing here. Creates an extra little bit of an interesting shape, right? And I think we'll do a little access ladder or stairway on the side here. Now, a building like this from above, this is kind of bothering me. We're gonna move that. Building, so we go. It's like, why am I this not erasing? There we go. This was kind of off center a little bit, so let's move that in, just so I'm going to be happy with it. There we go. More like that. Let's just get the bush size down, a little bit of tidy up. Now, look at that. That looks beautiful, right? It looks like a working building. It looks like a warehouse. If you want to kick it up just a notch, don't have to. Imply some doors on the front. A little bit of a thicker line. Now, you don't have to do that. But again, if you did another similar building and one has that implied door, maybe a little bit of an overhang just above the doors, right? And one doesn't have it, you've created this visual, interesting variance between them. So, that absolutely, for me, screams warehouse. You could, I'm going to go to the other side of this. And I'm going to go pretty close. In fact, let's just alter the angle on this because it will allow us to explore another problem that you can have when drawing cities. You know, we've got this like bend here on the wharf front. And I kind of want to do a building that does this. And I'm going to do a building that does this because I want to show you, and this is, you can see it's following the bend in the road as well. I want to show you how we could solve for that weird angle there. Now, before I do that, I decided that I'm going to make this a little bit like the 2 roof, but we're going to do a 3 roof here. So let's do, I kind of want to solve for this angle first. Yeah, okay. So the way you could actually see this weird convergence of angles, you could totally leave that. You know, at print size, you're going to start maybe not seeing it so much, but I see it. And if you have too much of that, it just looks odd. And honestly, even if you've got this beautifully laid out city, but this one weird joint, the eye will kind of go to it. That was okay, by the way. I mean, there's like look at the heart of New York, where there's that building. I forget the name of it now, but it's like this really sharp angle. It's okay to have things like that going on. I like to try and soften off a lot of mine. Ways to do it. You can either bring out this side here with something such as a roof or like a yard of some description, or we can cut in this side here. And I'm going to do the cut-in route, okay? So I'm going to actually, where they hit at a very strong angle, I'm going to cut this way back. And I'm going to bring this in here. Oops. Going the wrong way with my angles. But I'm going to, come on, Faden. There we go. I'm going to come in like so. Now, if I zoom out, now you don't see that weird convergence, right? And what we can do here, if we want this to still feel like part of this, is actually let's make it a backyard. And when I say yard, it's like, you know, it'll be a working area, something like that, right? Now, I'm going to leave that off for now because I want to show you another trick. But I also want to bring your attention to how these here are not lining up along the road in set. That's okay. What have we learned from here? We can add a little back working area. Wrought iron fencing. Maybe it's a wall with fencing on it. Maybe it's just a we learned that a building itself does not have to be the only thing that actually defines the road edge. It can be a garden, it could be a yard, it could be a wall. It's a host of other things that can come into play. So if our road is going to do... Honestly, I feel like it should be doing something like this here. Then it's really this one that is kinking up, but it looks like really our edge is maybe going to be more like... Kind of let's redraw this here. Maybe this. Maybe we'll kind of do this type of shape, but drawn well. So if we're going to do that, this inset can easily be addressed with something like this. Just doing a soft line, and maybe we'll even do a little bit of a corner thing right there. This is our yard. I'm not going to decorate right now. Warehouse now lines up with the main road itself. And for this little sort of kink here, like I said, easily addressed just by... Now, no, I'm not doing lines here, by the way. You'll notice that I'm not doing a line because that defeats the whole objective of softening up the join. Now the eye doesn't see it. And you know I said earlier that you could either do a roof coming in or you could like cut a bit out. Why not both? We could also make this a little bit deeper, breaking up that gap, or I should say bridging that gap a little bit, like so. Softened. Let's do one more. Let's do one more. Oh, in fact, let's do the roof details first, Phaeton. Here we go. So, let's just test our angle here. That looks pretty good. Let's do 1, 2, 2, 3. And I'm just going to do very, very, very soft sort of indication of roof here. Nothing sort of too crazy. Nope, we didn't need that one. Something like this. A little bit of a soft edge. And I think what I might do here, get some steps going up. I love the way it feels more industrious that way. Let's give this a subroof. We spoke about these extra roofs before. I'm gonna like bring it that way. And you know, I'm kind of feeling like this roof maybe even juts out over the water. Because we see that on warehouses, right? And then we'll just shape it like so. Voila. Look how our warehouse district is coming to life. One more. So we've done the 2 roofs. We've done a 3 roofer there that almost looks like a 2 roofer, right? We've done some variations of roof shapes. So this one is a pretty complex design here. I don't want to do too complex next to it. You know, have some visual variation. And it can be in shape. It can be in complexity. If you have the same complexity over and over, or the same shape over and over and over, the eye will start to sort of blend it all together. It's a little bit like when you're painting miniatures and you try to vary color and you vary texture, because it creates something a lot more visually pleasing to the mind's eye. It's the same principle here, okay? So I'm not going to replicate any of these shapes. I think I am going to do something close to this water's edge. But I want this to be a thoroughfare right here. I like the idea of this being like the main road to come through, or from the other direction, and just alleyways in between. And remember, we learned about those whole bridges going between them. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to do something like this. And I'm going to, because I don't want to have backyards over and over and over defining these shapes, I'm going to actually do this. I'm going to draw right to the edge here. And I'm going to split this into two. Long warehouses. And then I really loved those bridges. So we're going to add a couple here. And I think we'll keep this nice and simple. We'll give them a single roof each. But I'm going to cut in this section a tad. We're going to bring this in to create visual variance and interest. You know, kind of sort of see this being the main way in here. And it'll look something like that. Now, let me actually get rid of our trace in the background, because I like us to be able to see how things are shaping up. I think we can get rid of all of this. Let's get rid of all of that edge right there. And here. And we can see that this little puppy is beginning to take shape. I mean, look at this. This is good. This is good. If we add like some detailing, like, you know, maybe another loading, unloading crane type here. Maybe we'll do some detailing. I think we'll like do a focus on potential detailing that you can do in another chapter. But that already, I'm going to do a little bit of a zoom out. That already starts to say warehouse area to me. And I hope that it does to you as well. We're going to continue that up a little bit, because I want this whole area to be our major docks. And I don't worry about this whole inset here. I will show you in another chapter how we can inset. And we're going to actually do a special on just awkward joins, awkward angles, awkward alignments, and how you can overcome them. And that is a prime example right there. So I'm going to leave it there, because it will be a nice future topic. So hopefully you had fun with this. This is just screaming warehouses to me. I'm really liking how this is taking shape, and we haven't even really got into just the regular residential buildings yet. If you have enjoyed this, please consider hitting me up with a like below. Maybe hit me up with a subscribe. It would humble me a great deal, and I will see you on the flip side.